I'd like to say welcome to everyone here. We have 1.5 hours about project business management, about the contractor side in project business management. We have some time at the end for questions and discussions. We have a Q&A chat. I already see the first hellos in there. Looking good. Thank you very much, Martin. I hope you mean me and not just the setup. Yeah, probably means the setup. Vivian, David, some familiar names and some not so familiar names. That's great here. What I would like to talk with you about is project business management from the contractor side. We have two sides, actually, and both sides are interesting here. The contractor side is the side where we have profit centers, where we run a project as a profit center. And that's actually the topic we want to talk about here. What does it mean to run a project as a profit center? There may be some people who don't know me, so some corner data about me and some of the things that I've done in my life. The most important thing still missing here, I just saw that, should have updated that, is meanwhile co-founder together with Martin Berneberg, co-founder of the Project Business Foundation, which is here the official host of this event. I wrote books. The book, obviously, Project Business Management, is really focused on the topic, but it also turns up in situational project management book, which I did earlier. And the focus of the blue book, Situational Project Management, is about a very simple observation, the same practices, tools, techniques, and so on that are successful in one project, maybe in one project situation, can fail in another. And doing some research with a group of experts on that topic, we found differences between different projects. We developed the typology of these projects. And inside this typology, there was one type of projects that really jumped into my eyes, incredible. And this was customer projects. Some say customer-facing projects. I prefer the simpler term, customer projects. Projects that one organization, or maybe one person sometimes, is doing for another. And the first one is delivering, hopefully, and the other one is hopefully paying for that. So project, not just to support the kind of business, it is the business. It's the heart of the business. It's the core of the business here. And the more I stepped into that, the deeper I went into that and dug into that, the more I could identify there and find there and discover there. It's such an interesting field. And an aspect is it's high-risk business. So it's important to understand this field. There are so many things that we can do wrong, so we should understand it better. So what I'm describing in the first section of this lecture, what I will describe, is the way from internal projects to customer projects or customer-facing projects. Then what are the real challenges of doing projects as businesses? And then I would like to step with you into solutions and the question, what can we do differently? What can we do better? In 1.5 hours, you can only talk about a small fraction of the opportunities we have to improve things. And I have two views on that. One view is the view of the practitioner, who would say, we can improve a lot. We know already a lot, and we can use this knowledge and this understanding for better projects. I'm also very much a scientific-minded person. And in this mind, in this understanding, I think there is still a lot of things to discover and to research and to understand better. So for people who are in scientific work, for people in a master or doctor study or so, we have so many open questions that would want to be answered with a scientific study behind, with scientific work behind that. But for the practitioners, we already have a lot of answers to that. So to be able to answer questions, we need questions, of course. So this will be the last part in here. And I planned some time to talk with you about your questions and about the things that are important to you. We found in the last couple of events that we did with the Project Business Foundation that we never had enough time to discuss the concerns and the questions of all our participants. Just a sign how long people have waited for someone to discuss this with them, to bring questions to it, to ask for help and for answers. I'd like to introduce you to a lady here, Clara Loft. Clara is a project manager, I would say a perfectly normal project manager. She knows the value of her work. Some of you may say, hey, that's not normal at all. Many project managers have no idea what the value of their work is. But we see her self-assured, we see her experienced, professional. She's the kind of project manager organizations love to assign with projects. The typical type of projects she has been managing for many years now are internal projects for her own employer. She does projects that deliver something inside the own organization. She does that by implementing strategic initiatives. She brings change to the organization, develops new products and services. So it's all these very, very shiny things that have been of interest in project management for the last couple of years, maybe decades. We were all very much focused on that. And even if you look into areas such as agile methods and critical chain method and all these modern approaches to project management, they all focus on that. They all focus on these internal projects. To do that, one of the things she's very good in is building teams across the organization, cross-functional teams, as we say as well. And another thing, and that's something we are often measured against, is do we deliver on time? And yes, she is a very good project manager. She delivers on time. What does it mean to run an internal project? It means to be cross-functional in what you do. What is cross-function? It's a very simple thing. We have an example here. We have a division inside a major organization. In this division, which has a division manager, of course, in this division, we have some departments with department managers. And to keep things simple, it's just 4 departments here with between 3 and 6 employees in them. An interesting question that I discuss very often in my classes with my students when we talk about internal projects, an internal question is, how does the matrix organization work here? Matrix means how is the position of project managers when they go cross-functional with their projects. We have to understand these departments first, particularly in older organizations, in more mature organizations, maybe aging organizations. Sometimes you can often make an observation that the power and the influence of a department manager very much depends on the size of the department. So not always, but in many situations, we can assume that out of this example here, department manager number 4 will probably be more influential, more powerful than department manager 3. Often, not always, often we can assume that with 6 employees instead of 3, department manager 4 has more share in value creation inside this organizations, a stronger part of operations, of operational business in this organization. It could well be that department manager 4 has a much larger budget, yearly budget, the annual budget that they work on. It is probably larger than the one that department manager 3 has. These are all aspects of power, of influence. There are also soft aspects there. If rumors are going around inside this organization, it's much more likely that department manager 4 will hear them early. Department manager 4 has many more ears and eyes in the organization through the employees. And at the same time, it's also easier to spread rumors. How do you spread rumors? You tell your employee 4.1 in this example, don't tell anyone else, but I have to tell you a secret. Yeah. And you know that employee 4.1 will tell 4.2, and this one may tell 4.3, and then someone else from another department maybe hears this, and hears 4.1 says that, and 4.2 and 4.3 says that. Everyone says that. Yeah, it must be true. And that's how you spread rumors. And of course, it's much easier for department manager 4 than for department manager 3 in this example to do that. This has an aspect for project managers in internal projects. If project managers maybe just temporarily take employees out of a department, use them as human resources, as team members in a project, how will these department managers feel about that? They will say, temporarily maybe, this is a loss of power. It feels like a loss of influence. Yeah. They feel a bit maybe demoted by that, and probably demotivated by that as well, to give away their employees. They don't like that. And it doesn't make a big difference whether it's a male or a female department manager, a young or an old. Yeah? In Europe, in USA, Africa, Asia, wherever they sit, Australia, they're more or less all the same. There are other important factors. It's not always true what I'm telling here. Other important factors, such as the culture of the organization. And as I said earlier, age can really play a role here. It's more likely in old organizations than in young organizations. Yeah? And now we see just this happening here. There's a project done inside the organization. The project manager is somewhere inside the organization, and we have some team leads and team members, and they're all inside the organization. In such a cross-functional situation, there is a standard problem. The standard problem is people become servants of two masters. Look at team member number 3, for instance, here. Team member number 3 in my example here now has 2 managers. One is the department manager and one is the project manager. Can we give an example what these problems could be? I have one. Just assume the project manager needs team member number 3, this lady here, for some days somewhere in the world where everyone would love to travel to. Right? Maybe Australia or Hawaii or wherever it is, maybe Europe for others. And the department manager says, no, I will not allow team member number 3 to travel away, to book a hotel and book a flight and rental car and all these things. What will this mean? This will mean for the project manager that team member 3 will probably not be available for this work assignment in this other location. Maybe it's not just big decisions, but sometimes it's just micro decisions, nano decisions that the team members have to make. Maybe the problem is rather that the project manager needs an urgent report, some urgent results from the team member, and so does the department manager, who will get the results first. Who will be the first in here to department or project manager who get the report, that's very urgent report. And it's much more likely in many organizations that department manager will be the first person to get that, and not the project manager. The project manager will be the person to wait and to wait and to wait for such things. What we just described has a name. It's called the weak matrix. Weak matrix means the role of the project manager is often more that of a project coordinator. Often they are called project coordinator, and typically it's a signal that they are very, very weak. They don't really have power and influence, but they will be held accountable if they don't achieve, if the project doesn't achieve its goals and its objectives. Project managers, project management team are often part-time in weak matrix situation. I had it recently in a chemistry company where someone was expected to do a $15 million engineering project part-time. The person had daily business to do, operational work to do, and was expected to share some of this time in the project, put it into the project, but not the full day, maybe half a day or so. $15 million. How can you do that? Project managers in weak matrix often do not have an own budget. The budget is with a functional manager, maybe a project sponsor, or someone else inside the functional organization. The functional organization is the organization that makes the money and that spends the money, and the project manager has no own budget. The project manager is expected to do some scheduling and HR management and task management and these things, but not money management, budget management. They don't have an own budget very often. Staffing, procurement in a weak matrix is often done by the functional organization. The functional organization has an HR department that brings in people, maybe fresh stuff. They have a procurement department, which brings in contractors and so on. So they are not doing it by themselves. They have to accept what other departments, other people are doing for them. Resource availability, low, unreliable. My example with this travel to another country of a team member, which doesn't take place. And by the way, if the project manager goes to another department, the same thing will happen wherever he or she goes. Reputation of the project manager is very much suffering from that. How do you want to be on time? How do you want to deliver good products and services and other kinds of deliverables if you don't have the influence and the power for that? And this is a burden for the reputation of the project manager. Can there also be strong matrices where the project manager is really a project manager, sometimes even called a program manager? There's nothing special about these program managers often. They are just project managers who sound very important, much more important than just by being called project managers. And they are there full-time. Where do we find that? One example is customer projects. Again, in customer projects, project managers are in much smaller projects, typically assigned full-time to the project. The reason is, this is what the organization is there for. Its justification to exist, its justification to send invoices to customer comes from these projects. Another thing is, the project managers run profit centers, our big topic here. They run profit centers, and if they don't do it right, the project profit will not be there. They provide the income for the organization, something rarely discussed in project management. Very interesting. People are not talking about that. But in a customer project, the project manager provides the income with the project for the organization. Another thing is, a customer project is done under contract. If this person or someone else who can do it, if no one flies to this other location, then the contractor runs into a breach of contract situation. Project managers in a customer project have their own budget. Defining a budget in such a project is actually very, very simple. Take a fixed price project. The customer is prepared to pay us $20 million. We want to keep $5 million out of that. That's what we want to earn from the project. So 15 million are remaining, and that's the budget for the project manager. Independent of the contract type. It works with all contract types, and it's a very simple calculation. So it's so easy to develop a budget for the project. In a strong matrix, project managers often, I think typically, do staffing them by themselves, procurement by themselves. In very large customer projects, it could in turn be again that the project manager is his or her own procurement manager. Resource availability, much higher. Of course, if we need someone somewhere in the world, someone will fly there, someone will go there, from a simple reason. That's how we make money. We don't want to run into a situation of breach of contract. And It's our self-understanding. That's what we are there for. That's our justification to exist. And this has a very positive effect on the reputation of project managers. It is much, much higher because they are in a much better situation to really meet the goals. And they bring the money home. Someone who brings money home in an organization is untouchable. You don't touch these people because you're afraid that the stream of money will slow down. So they have a much better reputation. I met in my classes project managers who know both worlds. By the way, I know both worlds too. But I also had students who saw both worlds. And most of them agree in a customer project, you are in a stronger position. You're rather in a strong matrix and your reputation is better. In internal projects, you are rather in a weak matrix situation. Could there be a balanced matrix between those two? I think yes. It's not a very common thing. I think it's the best thing you can have. A situation where project managers and functional managers sit together and talk about the people they have involved, maybe machinery, rooms, all the other things that are so important for our projects. So they talk about that together and find a solution on eye level. But it's, I think, rather rare. And another thing I saw is it is very tiring on people. They get tired of maintaining the balanced metrics. You have to approach others to that, and they have to approach you in both directions. It needs a lot of trust, and it needs a lot of effort to do that. And somehow, sometimes people run out of the power to do that, of the stamina, and maybe of the trust as well. So weak matrix is common, with exceptions, please. It's not always true, but it's common for internal projects, and strong matrix is common for customer projects. And now back to Clara. Clara, she is in internal projects, so her skills are very much the skills of working in a weak matrix environment. She navigates the organization like a fish in the water. Stakeholder orientation inside the organization, skills that she has, servant leadership, that's something she needs here. She helps others and they help her in return. She has to be persuasive. When she needs people, she has to persuade line managers, functional managers to temporarily give them to her. She has a lot of social skills, things like empathy, yeah, the ability to listen to others, active listening, effective listening, all these things. She needs a lot of self-control because it can be very frustrating to do that. You cannot show this frustration. You have to keep it for yourself. With all her skills, with all her professionalism in internal projects, she got fired one day. And I made this before COVID times. I see it at the moment very often due to COVID, that people get fired, that companies try to reduce costs because they are doing very poorly at the moment by themselves. Economies are, of course, I wouldn't say failing, but they're suffering from what is happening at the moment. But even without that, it often happens that internal project managers get laid out because the project has been outsourced to an external provider. Here she has all the skills, knowledge, behavioral things, interpersonal competency, yeah? All her professionalism. It didn't help her from getting laid off, not laid out, laid off in the organization, made redundant. She wondered, if I lose my job, because my job is handed out to a contractor, so there must be a need for project managers and a demand for project managers for customer projects. Someone else is now doing the business and I could work for these people as well. So can it be that difficult to bring money home with projects running profit centers instead of cost centers? I have some data on that. The first one here is a survey. This survey, I made it some time ago, and I wanted to repeat it already, but we had this COVID crisis in between, and at the moment it doesn't make very much sense because we are not in a normal situation. When this crisis will be over, and I hope this will be in not too far a future, I will do it again. But I asked people in 2016, end of 2016, what is your observation, your experience in projects? Is it that there are more customer projects, or say the other way around? Are projects handed out to others, or are they kept internally? And the key for that is the make or buy decision. Make or buy decision means when a make or buy decision is made using the make option, deciding for the make option, this will probably become an internal project. If the buy decision is chosen, then this will become a customer project for at least one contractor, maybe lots of contractors. I ask people, what is your recent experience, maybe the last couple of months, years? And what is your expectation for the near future? On the left-hand side, we see those who said the tendency goes towards make. On the right-hand side, we see people saying, no, the tendency goes towards buy. And we see longer bars on the right-hand side than on the left-hand side. So the trend is choosing buy more often. This is more common than choosing make more often. I know some examples where the tendency is to do more in-house, do less buying, do less procurement for the projects. At least this is the management strategy. Whether management will be successful with this strategy is another question and still needs to be seen. The most color we see is on the right-hand side, right from the zero. So there are more projects now handed out to contractors. So Lara said, whenever buy is chosen in a make or buy decision, this will lead to a customer project for a contractor. I want to run that. I want to do that. I want to run a project as a profit center. She was looking for a job, and actually it's not that difficult to find a job in this field. A lot of project managers are needed, and people seek these project managers. It changed a bit during COVID-19, but I think I observe that the tendency to have more customer project managers is still there. This hasn't changed, but of course, the level of demand is a bit lower now. So she found a new project, customer-facing project, and the first thing she noticed is now she works for two organizations, not just one. She works for the customer organization, the one who pays for the project, and for the contractor organization, which is actually her employer. So on the first glance, this is the more important one, but she cannot ignore the customer's needs. Then she found that the disputes that she has to bridge are now different ones. These two organizations have different commercial interests. To some degree, they have similar interests, but in a lot of things, they have different commercial interests. Think of money that is spent. Of course, the customer's interest is not to spend too much money for the project. The contractor is, we like to get as much as possible. National and corporate cultures can be a big problem here. If these two organizations are very different, maybe in different countries, then it's getting very difficult to harmonize these cultures. Maybe conflicts from that. Processes and tools in use. I saw one thing quite often in my own history as a project manager in customer projects. We had our tools, software tools, for instance, and the customer different ones. And one of the two had to learn some new tools. And I tell you, mostly it's the contractor who has to learn the tools of the customer. So you are very well developed and experienced in Microsoft project, and now you have to learn Oracle or something else. Communication styles may be different. Some organizations have open communications. Often they have open doors. You walk through the hallway of the organization, and wherever you look at a door, it's open. In others, they are all closed. Yeah? Questions of data protection, security can be a problem. And actually, big egos are also a problem. You also have them in internal projects. But now we have big egos in 2 or more organizations, sometimes clashing. Then she had to learn legal terms, terminology that she was unaware that it actually existed sometimes. I have some examples here. Privity of contracts. What does this mean? What is a statement of work, really? Request for proposal, if you don't know these acronyms. Invitation for bid. Invitation to pitch. Invitation to tender. Request for quotation, and so on. We have so many terms here that people are not used to and don't understand what it means. And she doesn't have much time to learn that. A lot of things. Clara had to deal with contracting. Contracting, also new for her, means if things go really, really bad, they can end at course. Lawsuits, litigation, that's the worst case. An internal project, in the worst case, is swept under the rug of management. Nobody should know what we have done here. Yeah. It's so embarrassing what we have done, and it's so much failure. And now keep it among ourselves, keep it inside the protective walls of the organization. Now, with customer-facing projects, the worst case means it is in the public realm. It is in a court. That's publicity that you get, and maybe not positive publicity, negative publicity that you don't want. Clara spoke to her manager. You want me to bring money home with projects? I need to be better prepared for that. Let's talk about a solution so that I will be in a position to do that. Projects as businesses, what are the challenges for us? In customer projects, success has 3 aspects. The first aspect is the happy customer. By the way, I don't think that there is such a thing as a customer in internal projects. I have a lot of discussions about that because people think there is such a thing as an internal customer, but you don't earn money with an internal customer. Here we talk about a customer who is paying us. The customer is handing out money and we get it for our work. I want the customer to be happy. One reason is we want the customer to come back with future business, maybe become incumbent supplier for this customer. Another reason is we may need the customer as a reference customer to win new business somewhere else. Another reason, again, is we don't want to have lawsuits on projects. We don't want to have litigation against us, and we don't want to litigate a customer. We want a happy customer because the happy customer is more likely to pay us the money that we worked for and that we think at least we deserved. Then, of course, the project needs to be profitable. And that's different to internal projects. You don't have to care about that in internal projects. But in a customer project, this is the money the organization makes. We are not there to help other parts of the organization make money. We are not here to help a production department or someone in administration also be more effective, more efficient, bring more money home. We bring the money home with a project. So profitability is important. Sounds easy, it isn't. And the other thing, often overlooked, the protection of liquidity. Cash flow questions can be the killer for the own organization. When we work for other organizations and projects, a typical thing we do is laying out money. We lay out money for the others. It could be really just money, could also be we work for them, and the invoicing and the payment of the invoice will come later. In both cases, we have a strong negative cash flow. I saw a lot of customer projects. During the entire course of the project, they were in a loss zone. They were loss making because the layouts were so huge. And when the money came in from the customer, it just barely paid back the layouts. It was the last payment of the customer that turned the project from a loss-bringing project to a profitable project. And what happens if this payment comes late? What happens if it doesn't come at all? So we have to be careful with liquidity. One question is, of course, how does the customer pay? How reliable are payments? How late do these payments come? But to some certain degree, it's also a matter of project managers. How quick are we in providing all the reports and all the documentation inside the owner organization that allows us to send out invoices to the customer? If we are late with a project, it could well be the payment from the customer will also be late, while our costs are running pretty normal. So liquidity is a big, big topic. I saw organizations that have a big number of concurrent projects. In one case, it is a 4-digit number, several thousand. And ask them, do you know where your liquidity stands today? Well, more or less, okay. Do you know where it will stand in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 2 months? No idea. Across all these projects, no one had a slight understanding what the layouts are and what the cash flow is across all these projects. They could say for individual projects, not even all of them, but if you put it all together, yeah, how much is it for the entire organization? No one really knew that. That's very interesting. Yeah. So protection of liquidity is another big thing. It's not our job as project managers to look at the liquidity of the organization, but we have to look at the contribution that our project does to liquidity or to negative cash flow. Yeah. How much is the burden that comes from our project? If it's too much, our jobs will, when they maybe no more exist. Yeah. Then again, I asked project managers, are you in a customer project or are you in an internal project? And what you also see on the right-hand side is this yellow section, which says the setting is different. Not all projects are inside this black and white picture of internal projects and customer projects. Some are outside of that. We are not discussing them here. They're just here to allow respondents to come with other responses. I asked these questions 3 times, 2015, 2018, and again last year, 2019. And what we see in all 3 surveys, just asking project managers, you know, some kind of project managers, without specific filters there. And the result we got was in all 3 cases, it was over 50% in customer projects. So the thing that we're discussing here is not something exotic. It's not a fringe topic. It is a core element of project management. Customer projects done by contractors for paying customers under contract. It's not something that is rare and exotic. It is there, and it's very strong out there, and it is generally ignored. What does this mean? We saw in the survey on the make or buy decisions more procurement done by customers. We see here more project managers in customer projects than in internal projects. And I think there's a trend here as well, visible. Yeah, all over. It goes more to the right, to the left-hand side, to the customer project side. We need more project managers today in customer projects, and we have more there. So I think the market as such is a very healthy market for vendors, which doesn't say it's an easy market, it's a difficult market, but in general, it's healthy. Internal projects and customer projects are very, very different. I have such a table of the commonly observable differences. Please, there are exceptions to that. It's not always true, but it's a long, long table that we see here. And actually, it goes on down there. It's a long table with differences. And I wouldn't say that the table is complete. Sometimes I get new differences between internal and customer projects. So it's really different what we are doing. Then the next thing is, in projects under contract, what we see evolving more and more are project supply networks, PSNs. And this is still a very simple example. They can be far more complicated. I was a coincidence in my life. I was there about 30 years ago when modern supply chain management was in its very early beginnings. I came from production, mostly automotive industry and some nearby industries to that. I was always a production guy in my younger years. And I was there when in automotive industry, modern supply chain management was developed. The basics for that were ISO 9000, so that you could have a quality management system across organizations with the same language, with the same understanding. It was EDI, which allowed electronic data transfer, electronic communications across organizations. Very difficult thing by that time. It was some very inspirational people who started that, visionary people who developed that. I was business interests again. Now, 3 decades later, it is just there. We see supply chain management very well developed. What we see is there are people who are educated for that. You can study this in universities. There's a lot of literature for that. There is software out there for that. Standards, everything, it's all in place. And if you go to my neighbors not far away from me, BMW, and you ask a supply chain manager, outside the time of COVID, I have to say, it's a bit difficult at the moment. But in normal times, if you ask them, in 2 months' time, 4th of July, no, we have August now, September, October, 4th of October. Do you know what this 4th tier subcontractor will be doing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And when the results, their components will be sent to the 3rd tier and then to the 2nd and the 1st tier. And when will it arrive at the production line at BMW? And in what quality? And in what numbers? Do you know that today? And he will tell you, yes, of course. It is all engineered. All organizations involved in this supply chain are known, and they work together. And they have a common schedule and a common work plan, what they want to achieve in this time and how often they want to achieve this, and so on. It is extremely well engineered. What do we have? Some people like me have started discussing that with Martin, we have Stanimir, and some more. But generally, you have nothing in universities, literature, and so on. Software? Who has software for that? We have a similar situation. Project supply networks. What they mean in essence is we have customers and contractors. Some of our contractors are prime contractors. They have subcontractors. And again, it can go on like that. And then what we have is money flowing in one way, in my graphic here, downstream, and deliverables flow upstream here. So we have a similar situation, but we don't care about it. We don't educate people for that. Another survey I made. I asked people in 2017, if you look at your project business situations, particularly at conflicts, what are the most frequent causes of conflicts between the different contract parties? Yeah. I had a bit more than 302 responses. People were allowed to have several points in here, several causes of conflicts, not just one. It was on a scale from 1 to 5, and the largest bar was conflicting business interests among the parties as the most common cause of conflict. And actually, when I look back at my memories, my experience from project business management, when I was part of that, I remember precisely the same. Conflicting business interests was the #1 topic for conflicts between the organizations. Then almost the same result, diversity of cultures, legal systems, and so on, and incompatible egos. Managers, leaders who can't really work together, who cannot develop trust in each other. Yeah? And then we see some more in here. By the way, more to the bottom, but they can become very, very problematic. Things like breach of confidence. Yeah? Maybe things like bribery and corruption. Yeah? And of course, default of a party. Not very often that it happens, but when it happens, it can be one of the worst things that you can have. And by the way, it's true for both sides. It's true for the contractor who can have a problem with the customer going bankrupt, and vice versa. And I saw both sides. I had both experience with both of them, and it can become very, very nasty for both sides. Yeah. So we have to rely on the economic soundness of the other party. One example for business interests, for different business interests, is how we perceive time and how we perceive benefit realization over time. This here is what we see in internal projects. And actually, if you look into literature, you only find the first. One of the things that are rarely described is the second. The first one says, we do a project. We build a bridge, and there is one moment of delivery. The bridge has been finished, it's all done, and now we can hand it over to traffic, and traffic can use the bridge. You cannot hand over half a bridge. Who would use half a bridge? Yeah? People would fall down into the, I don't know, river maybe, under the bridge, into the valley, under the bridge. It would fall down halfway, so you have to finish the bridge, and then you can hand it over to the public. By the way, at the moment of handover, I recently learned the place for a project manager should be under the bridge. When the first trucks run over the bridge, the place of the project manager is under the bridge. I like this concept. We have a second form of benefit realization life cycle. It's a bit different. It has stage deliveries. Stage deliveries says we have different deliveries. We begin with a partially finished product and then hand over different delivery stages, maturity stages to the customer until the last one has been handed over, and that's it, and then the project is done. So in this understanding, the benefit realization life cycle starts earlier. For those of you who are dealing with internal rate of return and net present value calculations, return on investment, all these things, the calculation is a bit different here. The mathematics are a bit different, but not that different. It's easy to adjust methods and formulas, but you don't find them in literature. In my book, you find them in my first book, but not generally in literature. By the way, it has also been done already with a bridge. I was so surprised. North of New York City, there is I think the name is the Michael Cuomo Bridge. And this was handed over in 2 stages. It's actually 2 bridges, one next to the other. One for the traffic westward and the other one for the traffic eastward. When the first of the 2 bridges was finished, they handed it over to traffic. They split the bridge, the street on the bridge into halves. Yeah? So they had 50% capacity with the half bridge, and then they built the second one next to that. And when this was opened as well, not long ago, yeah, they had the full bridge finished. So we have stage deliveries also in bridge building. I would have never thought that this is possible, but it's indeed possible. Yeah. But now look at customer projects. Typical customer projects. There are exceptions to that. I always have to say that there are different models. It's not always true. But the most common type of customer project, benefit realization for the contractor, begins with the first payment and ends with the last payment. In both models that we have here in internal projects, benefit realization is in the future. Here it's all in the future after this delivery. Here it begins a bit earlier, but most of the benefit realization is in the future. The project has long been over and all the benefits are realized. We can use the bridge to drive to our workplace or to drive home in the evening, whatever you like. In a customer project, we do the benefit generation during the project. There's someone asking a question, raising a hand. Martin, I'm just allowing you to talk because you're just asking. You need to unmute. You're still mute, but I allowed you to talk. Martin?
Unmute. Can you hear me? Sorry, I could not find the right button. Apologize. Okay. No, but the benefits realization in customer project is the benefit realization for the contractor.
Yes,
not exactly. For the customer. For the customer, it's maybe long after the project is over. Correct?
Absolutely correct. And by the way, for the customer, it may still be an internal project, but it's no more done with internal resources. But they do it for themselves. So it's rather an internal project. From the customer perspective, we are still at the top. By the way, on Friday, we will have a very similar session, and there we look at the customer side. Yes, fully agreed. This is the contractor perspective that we have here. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, there may be subcontractors, subcontractors. Yeah? There may be a big project supply network, and it's true for all of them. By the way, when I say benefit realization here, it means monetary benefits. There may be some other long-term benefits, like having a happy customer, having a reference you can use for future sales, becoming incumbent for this customer. There may be some benefits in the future, but the most imminent and most urgent benefit from that is money, of course. They pay us, otherwise we won't survive. Yeah, it's not about greed, it's about need. And this is during the course of the project. Yes, when I say customer project here, I mean we look at that from the point of view of the contractor. I hope this answers the question.
So, if I may, the contractor, the contractor has his own business case, and when the invoices are paid by the customer, the business case of the contractor has come true, while the customer has a different business case, and it may take a while.
And that's what if you replace business case with business interests, then that's what the top line is saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Project,
thank you.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, we are in full agreement, and the important thing is to talk about that. It has always been true. It's not new, but we never talked about that. Yeah. I will cut you off again. We will have some session question answer session later, but I love to respond to raised hands early. I'm still the trainer, you see. Yeah. And there you respond to people raising their hands. One more thing. Project business for both sides again, customer and contractor, does not begin with a project charter. It begins with a make or buy decision on it's still not a customer. It's still just an organization, seller and buyer, maybe good terms. So it's on the buyer side. Yeah? On the buyer side, the make or buy decision, which turns the organization into a buyer. That's where it actually begins. The problem with the understanding that we have in many organizations today, particularly in large organizations, much more in large than in smaller organizations, is that that this is separated. Yeah? Some may know the term over-the-fence project management. It's an old term when projects were split in different phases and there were different departments, or in our case, different contractors. Each one does another phase, and when it's finished, they throw the results over the fence to the next department or the next contractor, and they go on with the next phase, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's still around, but I think it has become pretty rare, meanwhile, to work like that. But we still have it in project business. Both sides, buyer side and seller side, they split the world, they split the time into halves. One half is the half left of the project contract here. That's before the contract. Business development. Both organizations work on business development. Then when the contract is there, they will do the business. They will have to manage and to fulfill the contract from both sides. One side has to deliver, do the project. The other one has to pay for that. By the way, often you see another fence here at the end. The project is over, and for the contractor, the business, at least the project business, is over here. There may be some future service business or so, and sometimes it's important service business. But generally, you would say the project business as such is over. And again, these people don't really talk very much with each other. That's the problem here, by the way. If you look at those people here who do business development, purchasing, procurement on one side, sales on the other side, proposal development, and on project managers who have to deliver, they don't really talk that much with each other. In small organizations, very small organizations, this is one big process. The person who is doing the project may have the job first to bring the project in, to win the project for the contractor. In large organizations, this is really separated. And my experience is the separation is not so much the fault of the sales people at the beginning. There's a lot of complaints about them. Yeah, they sell things that we cannot make and so on. And they may be right. But often the problem is the other way around. The project managers don't have time to help during this business development phase. They are not available because they have a current project in a hot phase, maybe in a crisis, and they have to take care of the current project. And they are not there to help those people developing the business. So we have to unify, we have to look at this entire process, and we have to unify the people involved here. It does not begin, at least on contractor side, that's where we are today. It does not begin with a project charter. Unless you say, oh, we do project charter here on the left, before we make a decision whether we make an offer to this customer, future customer, prospective customer. First, we have a project charter. I saw this already. It's very, very rare. You don't do it that often. But then I would say, okay, it begins with a project charter. In most cases, and the PIMBO guide, by the way, PIMBO guide understanding is we have a project contract with a paying customer. The prospective customer has become a real customer. And now we look for a project manager and begin with the project charter in here. Now it begins much, much earlier. And for us in the Project Business Foundation, people from business development on both sides, buyers and sellers, are also welcome. We need them, and we need this communications with them. They have to understand what it means to deliver. Those who deliver have to understand what it means to develop such a business, to win a customer, or to win contractors to do the work for you. It's on both sides. And there's another problem. During this project business development phase, we have a focus on competing, a very strong focus on competing. There's competition between the sellers, as we see. Each of them wants to have the customer and the contract with the customer. So they compete with each other. But there's also competition between the buyer and the sellers. The buyer wants as much delivery, as high quality and numbers and whatever it is, wants to get as much as possible for the money the organization is prepared to pay. The sellers have the opposite business interest, of course. They want to do as least as possible, for as much money as possible. So they're also in a competitive situation. It's like a tug of war situation here. If you take this over into the completing side, into the project performance, contract management side, when we really have to meet contractual obligations, this project will probably fail, because we can no more be competitive here. Now we have to focus on completing. It's very nice in the English. It's not that nice in German, unfortunately. We have to change the focus from competing to completing. So that's what we need to do here. Are organizations good in doing that? Can they really separate that? Can they change their behavior that easily? That would be a good topic for a dissertation or a master thesis or something like that. I don't think they can. I think some can, but the majority cannot. It's very difficult. And things get worse. You have a pipeline of projects. Some are in the business development phase. Others are already in the development phase, in the performance phase, maybe shortly before delivery. And they all at the same time in different phases. So you are in a negotiation on project business development, and your focus is on competing. Now you leave the room, go to into the next negotiation room and talk with an existing contractor. And now you have to change your behavior. And the same is true, of course, on contractor side. It's just two different rooms in the same building, possibly. And one thing is at 10 o'clock and the other one is 10:30. So you have to be able to switch between them. I don't think that it's easy. Whether it is good to have a focus on competing during the business development phase, by the way, is something we can discuss. I'm not sure about that, but that's what we see at the moment. Competition is seen as something positive here. Then the next thing, I talked already about supply chains. I was there when the origins was built in automotive industry and some similar production industries. And that's what it looks like. It's orderly, it is engineered, everyone knows his or her place, the organization knows where its place is, you know who your subcontractors are and your subcontractors and so on, it's all known. Now what we have are far more complex situations, like this one here. You see, this contractor, for instance, is a first-tier contract. On this arrow, it is already a second-tier contract. So the contractors and the customers may have different business relationships depending on what the component is that people have to develop and have to build, maybe. I have a consortium up here. A consortium is a temporary joint venture in our understanding. So some contractors build a new company. They put their resources together to build the consortium. It's new, it's a new organization. It was just developed, just built for this project. And it's likely when all the work is done here that the consortium will be dissolved again. And we see one subcontractor of a company inside the consortium. We see another one working directly for the consortium. So things can become very, very complex and very hard to manage and to engineer. And to make things even more complex, they are changing over time. They are changing over time. The same structure that you see there tomorrow may no more be there in 2 months' time. People may change their structures in here. And another thing is, do you really know who is all there? I had a case from aerospace where a company had a contractor and the contractor had a subcontractor. At one point in time, this company found out the subcontractor, without them knowing, was their most vicious direct competitor on the market. In their most important project, they had their strongest competitor in the project as a subcontractor. Yeah. So people don't know what's happening there, and that's dangerous. And that's one of the reasons why projects built like that fail, because you don't know what people are there and what they are all doing. Yeah. And then we have this education gap. We have some people in project business management who are educated in project management. They lack knowledge of business management. We have some people who come from business management in their education. They lack project management. And many still have no education in any of those two. Yeah? So they lack it all. They lack all these knowledge areas in here. So what are they doing? How are people learning project business management? And my observation is trial and error. Trial and error is the common way to learn that. The problem is trial in customer projects is expensive, and error even more. We cannot really afford that. People need better education in that. What could solutions look like? I have several approaches to that, but basically, I think this is the most fundamental one that I have. And to be honest, I stole it from NASA. NASA had some experience in the year 1999, and they learned a lot from that experience, and we can learn the same thing from that. The problem at the end of the 20th century was a series of failures at NASA. This was not the only one. This was one of many. And there was a board, a mishap board, was it called? There was a group of people coming together to find out what was the reason for that. This is the Mars Climate Orbiter. This was a rocket sent, first of all, a rocket, later a probe sent to Mars that should then go into an orbit around Mars and measure the climate from there to learn more about changes in Mars climate and gain some knowledge. First of all, basic research, but maybe there are some things you can learn for Earth climate as well, big topic that we have at the moment. This Mars Climate Orbiter got lost. And what they found out in this mishap board was, the reason was probably very, very simple. NASA has been, over all its history, has been using metrical units, as we have them in Germany, meters and kilograms and so on. Here, newtons or Newton seconds. They had a contractor, Lockheed, and Lockheed assumed, NASA is an American organization, and Lockheed is an American, we use customary units, pound seconds. It was very natural, very normal for them to use pound seconds. So they communicated thrust data. These thrust data were very, very important. When you send a probe to Mars, the probe has to be very, very fast. It's a long way, and you want to be there in time, so it has to be very fast. If you want to go into an orbit around Mars, you have to be much, much slower. One reason is you want to stay in the orbit. Another reason is Mars doesn't have a lot of gravitation as Earth has. Mars is much lighter, so you have to be slower when you go around Mars. So you have to slow it down, and you have to know how much thrust do you need in a rocket engine, Newton times seconds, how many newtons times how many seconds to end at the right place with the right speed. And they didn't do that. By the way, the calculation error is, the error factor is 4.45. So it's really a lot. It's not a small difference. It's a big interest. I think it's an important line. That's why I want you to read it. So there was not enough communication across the different tiers. And what is the reason for that? You could say one thing, maybe just complacency, of course. Yeah. Lockheed had an expectation, and that's an important part of that. But it's probably more than that. Communications take a lot of time and resources. And by that time, they didn't have things like Zoom that we have here at the moment. They had to do it much more manually, and telephone and telex, telefax, maybe, all these things sit together, maybe a lot of traveling. Yeah, so it was more expensive, more time consuming than today. And you wanted to use this time and the resources for the project and not for communications. Yeah. Goodwill and trust. If you communicate too much, your corporate counsel or your lawyer will tell you, hey, that's dangerous. Yeah. All your communication can be used against you. Yeah. Don't communicate too much with the others. A project manager will say, no, sorry, we have to communicate a lot because we can have misunderstandings. Like here, Lockheed and NASA just on the metricals, on the measurement system, on the metrics used. Yeah. So goodwill, trust, legal implications, these are important. If you ask a lawyer will tell you, slow down your communications, don't talk too much. Yeah. You run into a dangerous situation. As a project manager, you say, no, we have to communicate more. By the way, both positions are right from their perspective. There is no general right and wrong here. The lawyer looks at these things differently than the project manager. Yeah. But obviously, lawyers can be very powerful and can run such a project into trouble. By the way, we talk about billions of dollars lost at this point, and important research lost, of course. NASA's mishap investigation board took some conclusions out of what they found in this lost mission. And they said there is a problem. The problem is that so far there was a paradigm that was followed by NASA: faster, better, and cheaper. NASA had the idea they wanted to act like a company. They thought companies are doing it much better than NASA is doing it. So they wanted to follow a paradigm that they thought they could take from organizations: faster, better, and cheaper. Some know this as the iron triangle, triple constraints, or whatever it is. They said, the mishap board found out this is a problem because you have three priorities. And if you have three priorities, you don't have an overarching priority. There is maybe different priority overarching for different people. If you have someone who is very strong in scheduling and we have to send the probe to Mars on time, otherwise it will run away again, and so on, these people will put the focus on faster. If you ask financial people, they will say cheaper is more important. And if you talk with the scientists whose studies are done, whose measurements are done on the probe, they may say better. We want the best for our scientific work. Yeah? So different people will have different priorities. NASA now said, that's new. We change our behavior. We change our paradigm. And the new one, the new motto, the new vision is called mission success first. When we make decisions, the first question is, the option that we could take, does it support mission success or not? I thought it was faster, cheaper, better. It's about the success of the mission. A new NASA culture, methods of managing projects. That's out of this report. So it's not my words, it's their words. New methods of managing projects. Another interesting thing is, it's about the individuals, not just the organizations. It's not just that a contractor can say, yeah, the project went wrong, but it wasn't our fault. Someone else was doing something wrong, and it's not our fault. And we can be happy, and we still did a good job, but this is not sufficient. The sufficient thing is that everyone in the project should feel that project success is personal success. Project failure is also personal failure. If you have football, American or European, as you like, Latin American, where we are, if a team is successful, it's the success of the team, not of the guy who made the goal also. It's the success of the team. Yeah. And one interesting statement, main lesson if you like, mission success first is the overarching focus of this report. We can learn a lot about project business from this report because it's a report on project business, on failed project business. And Clara did the same. She found out there are two options how to learn project business management: learning by trial and error or learning by sound professional qualification. And this is what she was given with seminars, consulting. Oh, we don't have consultants in the field. Where are the consultants? If I, as a contractor, have problems with the customer, where's the consultant who helps me to make my project profitable again? We have for so many things consultants and psychologists and sociologists and many more, social scientists. But we don't have consultants for project business management. And literature. The literature is very, very thin. I know these two books. Yeah, the left one is mine. The other one is from a guy from Canada. I know two more books, and that's it. That's it. That's all that is out there. Yeah. So she learned. She learned to follow a mission success first approach, have it together with a customer. Both need to follow that. It's not just one organization. It's across the project, the entire project supply network. Yeah? With good faith, completing over competing, and mutual respect of everyone's business interests. If I am a customer working with a contractor, I have to respect the contractor's business interests, and vice versa. And that's what mission success is about. Yeah? For us on the contractor side, it's about having a happy customer, a profitable project, and protection of liquidity. And another thing that people need in this field is just a phone number. Someone to ask, I have just a problem. I have to do something right now. Yeah? What is the best thing I can do? What are maybe the options I really have? Maybe there are more options that I'm aware of. Yeah? And what can I do to ensure mission success first on my side? And she needs someone on the other side who from a distance can make recommendations and proposals, but has the same motto, the motto of mission success first. So I'm open for questions now, and I see there's a lot of questions coming in. I see Peter Taylor here with a question. Peter, are you there?
Hi, Oliver. Can you hear me?
Great to have you here.
Hey, yeah, no, thank you for that. No, my question was around this, and it's always one I've battled with in the past. As you know, I have a very strong client-facing project management experience, and it's when you look at profitability of client-facing projects, do you take into account the cost of sale of those projects in the first place? Is my kind of teasing kind of question. Do you take the project delivery costs on their own, or do you actually roll in the cost of sale as well? And I see organisations doing both, but mostly it's around the project delivery and the overall profitability of the client across the board.
I think your question is absolutely right. And if we would not have 1.5 hours here, but 1.5 days or 1.5 weeks available, we would have gone much deeper into that. Of course, we have to discuss the cost of sale. I think it's hard to address them directly from the project. I think it's more overhead costs. It's more indirect costs for the organization doing the project. The reason for that is hit rates. Hit rate means what percentage of the proposals and bids and things that you send out really lead to business. And I asked a lot of companies, what is your hit rate? And there was one number I heard very, very often. This is 10%. This means you have to send out 10 offers, bids, proposals, quotations, whatever it is. Tenders in UK, you're in UK. Tenders in UK. You have to send out 10 of them to get one customer on board. So it's not just the cost of sale of this one project. It is the cost of sale of 9 other offers that led to nothing, that you also need to pay for that. If you don't get this money back, you will be insolvent in one point in time. Yes, it's an important thing. And I see two things that organizations do to come up with this, to address this 10% hit rate. One thing is to use templates and to use a lot of boilerplate there to make it cheaper to develop offers, bid proposals, and so on, and then send them to the customers. Others say, no, we look at our offer, no offer decision, and we do it more accurately. And when we say this is an inquiry that's coming in, a request for a proposal or whatever it is, if we made a decision to respond to that and to send an offer, then we want to win the business. So they focus more on winning the business. There are two approaches for that. Personally, I prefer the second. That's where I originally come from. But yes, we have to discuss that because it's part of our business success or business failure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you.
By the way, we are still looking for good interview partners. And with all your experience, and that's true for everyone else, of course, people who have a lot of knowledge and experience with that are welcome. We had some wonderful discussion partners already, and we had a lot of experience with Cornelius Fichtner and Sunil Prashara. So it may well be, Peter, that I will approach you, or you can approach me if you like, and anyone else, of course, and say, hey, I have something to tell. I have some stories to tell. I have another question here of Arif.
Hi, Oliver. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Arif.
No, it's just, I don't know if maybe you've seen it in other organization before, but I've always had this, issue, if I may call it that, for a lack of a better word, with profitability of projects, especially when the project involves stakeholders or departments from internally with the organization serving a customer together, right? And whenever we have to define the project profitability, the number becomes slightly, fudged, because a lot of the resources that we are using is a shared resource. The land that we are working on is a shared resource. The people that is working for the project, even though they are assigned to the project team, dedicated, but they are still a shared resource, right? And then you have also the other business lines or the departments who is providing us their products or services through some kind of an SLA, who also use a shared resource. So then it becomes internally quite challenging to define what is the profitability of this project. Because, for example, if I have a component of my service is provided by another department who has their own commercial model and everything, and then I ask them, how much are you making from this? Then they don't become transparent, or maybe the system doesn't allow them to give an exact number, because again, to produce that service or the product, they used shared resources. Yes. So then in the end, whenever we are asked, right, obviously at the company level, it's easier to define whether a location is profitable or not. But specific to projects, I don't know if in your experience, do you see this type of complexity, or is the accuracy of project profitability very crucial or not? Or is a ballpark figure or estimate good enough, Oliver? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It is extremely important. I see with what you described two things. One thing is the organization is mixing up internal charging and external billing. Internally, if you use own resources, the money that your project is internally charged is not real money. As much as I don't believe in the existence of an internal customer, I think the internal customer is a phantom. I also see the risks of internal charging, as important as it may be. I'm not against that. Don't misunderstand me. But I see the risks with that. And one risk is that you're mixing up the external world where you spend money and where you make money with the internal world where the money is just running around in the organization in circles, if you like. These are two completely different things. And if you bring them just together, you run into false numbers. You will have false numbers. Is it a problem to have false numbers? Of course it is a problem, because managers make decisions, including project managers, make decisions based on numbers. Give them false numbers and they will make poor decisions. So that's a very dangerous thing. Another aspect of what you said is, I said this internal projects are mostly weak metrics and customer projects are mostly strong metrics. There are some exceptions to that. One exception is organizations that have many customer projects concurrently. And the situation that you described sounds like that to me, that they have maybe, I don't know, 50, maybe more projects concurrently. Is this a correct assumption?
Yes, not exactly, not 50 obviously, but yes, what you describe is correct.
A number, a good number. Yeah, not just one or two or three, a real number, a 2 or more digit number.
Yes.
In such a situation, you will find that the project may run again into a weak matrix situation. The reason is not the competition between the line organization, the functional organization on one side, and the project on the other side, as I had it in this internal example. The problem there is the competition among the projects. The projects inside the same organizations start competing with each other for the same resources, shared resources, as you called it. Some say a resource pool. And this competition makes project managers weaker again. And then you find the same situation as you often see it in a weak matrix situation, that there is a procurement department or purchasing department, whatever the name is, that does the procurement for you. And there is an HR department that does HR for you. And the level of influence on project success that you have as a project manager gets lower and lower and lower. But the problem is the big number of projects that the organization is doing at the same time. I can at the moment only describe the basics of the problem. I cannot describe solutions here, but we need solutions for that as well. And that's a field where I think where we need to do more research and test out and try out more solutions as well. I think we don't have well-tried solutions for that. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, yes.
Go to the next. Dimitris.
Hello, Oliver.
Hi.
Can you
Nice
hear
to have
me?
you here.
I'm in a noisy environment right now, so I don't know if the sound is good.
It's okay.
Okay. My question was about internal projects, which have a lot of contractors. What is the, I don't know, the number or the minimum percentage of contractors so as to consider a project internal?
I would say that's a matter of definition. What do we mean when we say internal? In my understanding, internal project means we do a project for ourselves. It does not necessarily mean we do it with internal resources, but we do it mostly for ourselves. But if you want to be very, very accurate, then I would be more limited maybe in my definition and say we do it with own resources for ourselves. That's truly internal. It's a bit a matter of definition. For us here, it's the distinction between projects done for ourselves and projects done for paying customers. So that's how we use it here. In another environment, even I may use it differently. On Friday, we will have this view. We have lots of contractors, and you will see many problems that turn up there. If you join this as well, many problems that turn up there are similar, but seen from the other side. We had actually 60–70% of the lecture next Friday already today, because it leads to problems in projects for contractors and for customers. So it's your definition. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you. Martin, I will just quote you quickly. The metric requirement should have been in the requirements documentation under glossary of term. Fully agreed. Fully agreed. Obviously, it hasn't happened because they didn't think about that. It was so self-understanding. Goes without saying for NASA is, of course, we use meters and we use kilograms and newtons and so on. It was also going without saying for Lockheed. We are an American company working for an American agency. Yes, of course, we use pounds here. Yeah. So sometimes people have expectations without talking about them. It's too normal to them. It should have been discussed then. Actually, I think NASA should have been aware of that because I'm sure they had this question very, very often. Yeah. The reason was it was founded by a German. NASA was founded by Werner von Braun, and he said, I cannot do calculations with pound seconds and all these things. I have no idea what that is. I want to have proper metrical units here, and that's what we want to have. So I think they should have known that. But the problem is to discuss it, to take the time to discuss it, even if it costs you money and costs you time and sometimes energy. Yeah, all these things that are limited. Yeah? Maybe management attention. My opinion is the scarcest and most valuable resources of all in most projects is management attention. By the way, in a project business on both sides, contractors and customers, of course, again. Yeah. So, yep. I have some thank yous here. Thank you back. And then I have Arul here. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. No, sorry, that's Arul. I was wrong one. Arul. Hang on. This is very nice. This sounds. I don't have Arul.
Yeah, my question is, see, now I am a project manager. I was handling the project at site level. Okay, I have a full authority to take all the decisions. But when we go for functional finance and procurement, we have a functional department. You know, they are working from head office. But even though I have a full control at site, can we consider this as a balanced matrix?
I would always try to convince people to do that. Whether you're able to do that is another thing. Power in organization, influence in organization is a zero-sum game. It does not grow. It is the same amount of power and of influence. So if you give influence and power to one person, you have to take it from someone else. And then someone else will say, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah. So you have to bring people together in an environment where they don't feel that they are losing something, they're giving something up. You have to bring them to an environment where you tell them you're part of a team, you work together as a team. And it doesn't matter who makes the goal. The important thing is that the team wins and that the team is successful. And even if you have not made the goal, you participated in the success. It's your success too. And that's what you have to do. People, and that's a different thing, a difficult thing. It's not easy, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I have been managed in a couple of projects in couple of companies, but all the setup is same. You know, the functional department, the majority of the functional department doesn't come to site. You know, they don't sit with us. Actually, they work from head office basically.
Yep.
So this is I'm from calling from Middle East. So this is what happening here in Dubai and UAE, all these Middle East places. So this mainly the subcontractor places. I've seen from the customer point of view, yes, I've seen almost all the people are gathered in one location and they are like a fully projectized, you know. So basically, but when you go to subcontractor level, it is a bit different.
Yeah, because it's their business. They have just this business. Some of them may have, for some of them, it may be the only business they have. They have just one side, work on one side with all the resources, and then maybe lucky or not to have another project when this is over. Often for subcontractors, it's small companies, sometimes a single person. Some subcontractors or some contractors, subcontractors, and so on. Some of them are freelancers. It's just one person. Like me as a trainer. I've often been a one-person subcontractor in a coordination project. So it's a normal job for me. Right. Any
Sure.
more
Right.
questions?
Thanks,
Thank you
Oliver.
for
Thanks. Yeah.
asking.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
sure.
hope,
Thanks, Oliver.
and nice children, by the way. Nice sound of children. I love the sound of children. Yeah.
Yeah, they are playing.
So it seems to me that we are done. It seems to me, I just see Martin Berneberg is here with us, is also with us. He's the CEO of the Project Business Foundation. He hasn't got a chance so far to talk with us. That's no good idea. The CEO should have at least the last word in here. Martin, may I ask you to unmute yourself?
Yes, of course.
You were not prepared for that, yeah?
No, I wasn't. But no worries. It's been a great session. I really enjoyed it, and there's always a nugget of gold here and there that one hasn't stumbled across yet. And it's always a great conversation with you, whether it's in a context of a webinar such as today, or when we're sitting down together. So, yeah, once again, very happy.
Yep, very good, very good.
And good questions, by the way. Good questions. I really enjoyed that as well. Great interaction.
Yep. And I think one of our next partners for interviews, on top of Peter Taylor, of course, the big star that should be part of that. Another one is Martin, because he comes with a new question again, and I love this question. Sales versus PM, can we make the sales guy's commission dependent on the successful completion of the contract? Oh, he is not completing the contract. Someone else is doing that. But these are the things that we need to discuss. These are precisely the questions that we need to discuss here. What are good approaches? What are promising approaches? What are approaches that are have shown that they can help, or have shown that they cannot be beneficial, or maybe beneficial in one project and leading to failure in another, and so on. So these are the things that I think we need to discuss. Martin, would you want to have the last words?
Me? Oh, sure. Great.
Close down here.
No, it's great. It's great to have these ongoing events. We're constantly putting new ones in the pipeline, whether they are particularly topic focused, as in this case today, and with the one that we have as a follow-up event at the end of this week. Or we have them set up as open hours, and we are in the process of planning the next one as well. Everyone's always welcome, and we are building a community that so far everyone's been excited about and has been telling us to keep pushing and to even increase our pace. It's wonderful. We really enjoy ourselves, and we are also very happy that in times where a number of project managers are looking to expand their scope of information and the input into their daily work as a project manager, that we can actually contribute and help this community and build something that hasn't been available before.
So goodbye from my side. And we may see some of you again on Friday. And by the way, don't forget, in LinkedIn, follow Project Business Foundation, and even better, join the association. Become part of those people who shape this profession. We are making a profession out of that. We are young, we are small, so you can really shape something. You can move something. You can form things that somewhere else may already be too strict and too matured. Yeah. So please help us do that, and feel free to join us as members, and as volunteers.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that we see that there has been a need for, to really address corporate, cross-corporate project management in the way that we have. And well, it's by now the biggest chunk of project management that is being operated in worldwide, basically over the last few years, and it's continually growing. So we're the home of project business, and do join in one shape or form or another. You're certainly welcome, and we have quite a few new things up our sleeves that are happening in the next few weeks and months. So check in with us on LinkedIn or on our website, which is www.project-business.org, and, well, be part of the community.
Have a great, whatever it is, morning, afternoon, evening here, night, maybe you're going to bed. Our participants came from all around the world. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.